back with issue 54 and some cool parts, right?
Yeah.
We got the area that's behind the seats, and this will be the what's known as the shelf, right? The little shelf behind the seats. And on the shelf sits a metal enclosure with an oxygen tank, as well as 2 cannon elbows. And this part, which I will tell you about later. So we got basically an article about Michael Jackson called Who's Bad? The Jackson style video waiter played by E. Casanova Evans in Back to the Future Part 2.
Cilantro mixed with your choice of beans, chicken, beef or pork.
And E. Casanova came to We're Going Back 2015 and put on a spectacular Michael Jackson show at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. It was awesome. Let's get started. This is, they're calling this the bulkhead, but this is definitely, this would be maybe the DeLorean's bulkhead, but not the Time Machine's bulkhead. Step 1, move the wires out of the way as shown before you position the bulkhead. Fly that in for you. Okay, and then you're going to want to turn that around. That's a lot of wires. Move out of the way, okay? You're going to be working with this little bunch of wires here. It's tiny little wires. A little group of wires. It's these. Okay, do you see them? So you want to separate those out because those are the ones you're going to be dealing with right now. Then you want to take what they're calling the junction box, 54E. Okay, and you want to insert the wires into the junction. And then step 5, bring the bulkhead into position, feeding the cables through the base as shown. How's it going?
Good.
Okay, are you ready for the next step?
Almost.
You don't have to feed them back through.
Ah.
Okay. Taking forever.
Do you want to do this?
Do you need my help?
Yeah.
Okay. There are actually dinosaurs on this dinosaur exhibit.
I'm done.
You done?
Yep.
Okay, that only took forever. Okay, what you want to do now, Joey, is take the bulkhead, okay? And this is not the Time Machine bulkhead, this is the DeLorean bulkhead. Step 5, bring the bulkhead into position, feeding the cables through the base as shown. You got a bunch of cables that run through the center, and you want to let them pass through that hole, okay? But you don't want to miss any. You want them all to go through that hole, okay? And what about this one? Should that one go through that hole too? No? No, because it should go up, right? All the ones with a fitting on the end aren't going to pass through there. They're going to go up, okay?
Yeah.
So the ones that pass through it are actual electronics for the model, right? And the rest of them are going to go up here and plug into the Time Machine bulkhead. And then step 6 is position the junction box as indicated, aligning the posts on the box with the large and small holes on the bulkhead. Okay? You want from the other side to insert an A-piece screw in the hole shown to hold the junction box to the bulkhead. So an A-piece screw. you go. You ready for it?
Mm-hmm.
You need me to hold it or anything? Or do you got it?
I need you to hold
You
it.
need me to lift it up? Very close to being done?
No.
What do you mean no? How could it not be?
They're all out. I can't do this.
Okay, so we had a mini episode 48 just now with that junction box. It was a little bit fiddlier than I expected, right? It was tricky. Joey struggled with it and finally bailed, and I took a whack at it, and then I bailed, and so it's tomorrow for us. We had to sleep on that one. We were getting kind of burnt out, and so we're fresh and new, and we got up and we fired it together off camera. So it's done, and it wasn't that bad. I think we were really just burnt out. I will give you a suggestion though. And what you're supposed to do is insert the wires through these tiny holes, so you're weaving again, and then on the other side you're supposed to bend it over, and they don't really stay so well, and it gets pretty frustrating. So I put a little drop of super glue on the end and stuck it in, and it worked way better. So I know the goal is no glue, but sometimes glue keeps you sane. With that, moving on. You ready? All right. So we are now on step 8. Step 8. Secure the bulkhead on 39A behind the seats as shown, keeping the wires clear. Okay? So it's all together and everything. Basically, you just need to flip it over and throw 4 FP screws in there. Okay. You need me to hold this?
Yes.
Alright, so once they're all lined up, good. That's good. That popping sound is you gonna strip the bolts, okay? So you gotta push a little bit harder, or we need to change heads. But when that happens, you shouldn't keep turning it, you know what I mean? Because that will just wreck the screw.
Okay.
Cool? Are they all tight?
Yep.
Perfect. Look at that. That's pretty amazing. This represents a lot of work, right? What is this? 54? Issue 54. And that should have a lot of really cool parts. I'm very excited about the bulkhead. But we're not done yet. So, moving on to step 10. Push piece 54B into 54D by aligning the posts with the holes. So basically what you're going to be building now, the fans call the shelf box. Okay? So it's just this silver L&B enclosure with what was originally an oxygen bailout tank for pilots, but is now a fire extinguisher, right? For safety Traveling through time is dangerous business. Okay, so that goes in there, and you want to fire that in with 2 AP screws. I think this head, why it was jumping on that last screw, I think this is the AP screw head, not the big FP screw, right?
Probably.
It's the almost perfect screw instead of the freaking perfect, right?
Yeah.
Cool. This is a rad part. This has always been kind of one of my favorite parts that you never really even see in the movie. It's a really cool, creative assembly. And it's not done yet. You got 2 tiny, here, cannon elbow connectors. And they go one here and one here. Okay, and you want to find the matching corresponding, there's like a circle with a straight edge, you have to line them up. Now, the way that they have these in the instructions, you've got one facing the bulkhead and one is turned to towards the driver's side of the car, and that's not actually, those cannon connectors was just loose and it had turned on its own. And so this is a case of Eaglemoss doing a absolutely perfect replica of a part that was, you know, wrong. There's an easy fix, and that is on the one elbow that is facing the wrong direction, and I'll show you that in a second. You can just take a tiny little file and file the edge of the peg flat until it fits the way it is supposed to. Do you recognize this part?
Yeah.
You can actually see it pretty clearly in the train wreckage. So these require AP screws. Okay, is when we're dealing with little fiddly parts like this, it's better if you test fit that screw first before you're like fumbling with all these parts. So just put it straight into the cannon connector so that when you're sandwiching the box and the cannon connector and everything, you're not doing so much. And the elbow wants to be facing the bulkhead, so the rear of the car, okay? Exactly. Here, let me hold it for you. And you need an AP screw.
I have one.
Oh, you don't. My bad. Alright. Let me hold the part for you. And, okay. Okay. To do on your own, but it is nice having somebody to hold stuff for you. It's not quite tight enough. Did you strip it?
It just kept going and going and going. It never got tight.
Well, that is what stripping it means. Let me just verify. Yeah. So it's not a big deal. You know what we do when we strip a screw?
Super glue.
Super glue. It rhymes even, right? There's some on there?
Yep.
On the actual screw?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens when you get old, man? You can't see. Alright. So, there you go. And I think we're there. Okay. So, this is correct, and the cannon elbow is facing the correct way. Now, the problem is the second cannon elbow, the instructions say to fit it in. It's hard to show you because it's so tiny, but the instructions went to replicate exactly what we showed them. Unfortunately, life happens, and this cannon elbow got turned around. So if you just file off one of the sides with a teeny little file, it's pretty easy. It only takes a second, and then you can fit it in the proper way. All right, let's not test screw this one. Let's just put it in. Okay, but don't go crazy. When you feel it tightening, call it a day. Okay. So, let me just turn that a little bit. And this one too before it's too late. With both cannon elbows facing the bulkhead.
I know exactly where this plugs into.
You see that little plug? And I was wondering what that plug was for, but it's not really a plug, it's just kind of a connector. And that fits on the underside of the shelf box there. Step 15, position the assembly on the bulkhead behind the driver's seat, aligning the posts with the holes in the position shown. Okay? And what is it? AP? Yeah. 2 AP screws. Alright. I'll hold that there. Cool. Got that one down.
There.
Cool. Perfect. Okay, so this is what it should look like when you're finished. And it says this is how your assembly should look at the completion of this stage. And it does.
Yeah, except this cannon connector is facing the right direction.
You are correct. And very well done. And that is it for episode 54. Really moving right along. Well done.
Thank you.